Hello and welcome to this overview of the TIBCO Insurance Pricing Accelerator. My name is Mark Elder, Director of Global Vertical Solutions Consulting at TIBCO. So today's session, we're going to cover the following items. Understanding what TIBCO means when we talk about the algorithmic insurer. An overview of our Insurance Pricing Accelerator. We'll talk about a case study where the pricing accelerator has been implemented, Automobile Association of Ireland. I'll talk about the solution components that go into the pricing accelerator, brief demonstration of some of the components, and then some guidance on where you can get more information and resources if you want to take a closer look. So when TIBCO talks about the algorithmic insurer, how do we define it? Well, we define it as a new generation of algorithmic-driven applications used not just in insurance, but other industries, but in the context of this presentation, insurance. Those algo-driven applications can be used for pricing. They can be used for claims, customer service, customer scoring, lifetime value type use cases, and also risk pool optimization. And it's our intent to decouple the algorithms from the applications that use them, and make them less rigidly bound to the applications. And so the algorithmic applications that we create, or you can create with our tools, can be used by multiple applications. Also, when we talk about insight to action, we talk about getting the information to the right people and using the best tools to spot those trends and patterns and discover insight that you can then act on. And what we really mean by that is democratizing data science, perhaps taking out of the domain of just the actuary or the data scientists, and making some of those insights available to line of business heads or strategists, underwriters, even heads of sales, people who have a vested interest in understanding that data to guide the business. We provide the tools within the pricing accelerator to construct models based on these discoveries, and then be able to deploy those models to a runtime platform that quickly and easily, and then evaluate their performance in real time, and in fact react to anomalies or trends that occur within real time. And what we mean by that is the ability to monitor these models, tune them according to the needs of the business, adjust them and update them quickly. And that's what we refer to as the algorithmic insurer platform. Simple building blocks, processes and algorithms, integrated seamlessly using flexible off-the-shelf software, either ours or even other vendors, and applications that are scalable and agile and able to cope with the business demands as it pertains to pricing models. So what is the impact of algorithmic insurance? Well, in a recent survey, the research company Market Force asked a basket of insurance professionals where they saw algorithmic technologies like machine learning and AI would have the most impact on insurance. And the results are pretty interesting. About 32% of those surveyed said they could see algo type functions being used in customer engagement use cases. 20% of those sampled said they could definitely see it being used in insurance pricing. And that, of course, is the subject of today's presentation. 27% of those samples said they could see it being used in claims handling, and 14% said they could see it being used in fraud management. Now, if you want to read more about the Market Force information, if you go to our solutions page on tibco.com and find the Algorithmic Insurance Solutions page, you'll see some links to the Market Force webinar and white paper that contains more details on this statistics. So, when we talk about the Insurance Pricing Accelerator, it fits in our category of applications and solutions we've referred to as insight to action. When we talk about insight to action, we talk about closing the gap between understanding what is going on in your business and reacting to what is going on in your business. It's a means to identify opportunities. It's also a means to avoid risk. And if you can identify good opportunities and avoid risk, one of the intents is to perhaps reduce your loss ratio. By definition, you reduce your loss adjusted expense ratio in terms of processing the loss. And those two combined, of course, should lead to a lower combined ratio, and that overall should improve your profitability on gross written premium or net written premium. You do, of course, insight to action is a way of democratizing data, putting insight and knowledge into the hands of different stakeholders within the organization. And this is another way of encouraging collaboration between stakeholders in the business that may not have had the tools or the ability to collaborate in the past. So when you apply these concepts to the actuarial control cycle, you get something like this. Now, if you're an actuarial professional or an underwriting professional or a data scientist, you'll know that there's various interpretations of the actuarial control cycle, sometimes referred to as the actuarial control loop. But the essential premise is that your resident data scientists, typically your actuaries, will mine your historical data or other data sources and develop a set of risk assumptions within your books of business. They pass that insight on to the underwriters, and that knowledge manifests itself in the form of underwriting rules and controls. That in turn determines the pricing and quoting behavior against incoming quote requests, whether those quote requests come via an agency management system, through the call center, through your website, through your mobile apps. And of course, all quotes have a quote outcome, i.e. the customer accepts the quote and binds the policy, or they don't, or perhaps they play around with their policy riders and conditions to massage the quote. But eventually the quote outcome is they'll either buy the policy or they won't. And for those that do buy the policy, of course, there's going to be another set of outcomes during the course of the policy year. During that year, they'll either submit a claim or claims, or they won't. And that data, the quote outcome data, the policy outcome data, all ends up back in the data warehouses or data stores, and the exercise of risk modeling starts all over again. Now, it's not uncommon for the actual control cycle, the complete loop, to take 9 months or more. So this is what we're endeavoring to approve, is actually condense or compress that control cycle from sort of 9 months or more to a matter of days in some cases. And that's one of the goals of the pricing accelerator. So let's talk about insurance pricing in particular. What are the business drivers for a better pricing solution? Traditionally, insurance vendors, insurance software is dominated by a handful of specialist vendors. There tends to be limited competition depending on the category, and these tools can be expensive to deploy. These pricing apps can be difficult and expensive to customize, and there's little motivation to innovate with a segment of the business with low competition. A lot of these solutions tend to be operated as black box solutions, which discourages easy modification or adaptation. And if all insurers use the same vendors that basically use the same pricing algorithms, how can you differentiate yourself as a carrier using pricing as one of your strategies? And the net result of this is it forces your carrier to be slow to react to market trends, changes in legislation that affect insurance sales and pricing, and even to tactical and strategic sales campaigns as part of your growth or market share defense strategies. If you wanted to do better pricing, what are the challenges to achieving better pricing? Well, a lot of the existing vendors, the analytics and algorithms provided tend to be basic and behind the technology curve. A lot of these pricing engine products were originally designed for static data. They are unable to handle real-time data streams. A lot of them lack advanced analytical capabilities like that provided using more modern modeling languages like R. They are difficult to integrate in a modern IT landscape. And when TIBCO talks about a modern IT landscape, we refer to what we call the connected intelligence cloud. And that can be any combination of public and private cloud and a mixture of on or off-premise applications. And all this basically creates barriers to automation and streamlining of business processes as they pertain to the pricing exercise. So when TIBCO talks about Insurance Pricing Accelerator, we talk about 3 key tenets: accuracy, agility, and affordability. So in terms of accuracy, the Pricing Accelerator allows you to optimize existing price models with real-time data and advanced techniques. The same architecture allows you to bring in advanced statistical capability, such as machine learning, And it allows the folks in charge of pricing strategy, pricing models, to review those models more frequently based on accumulated quote data. This is an often overlooked aspect of pricing. If you're a large carrier and you have a high volume quote stream, then your statistical sample that you draw your pricing and your modeling on grows every month. You could be adding hundreds of thousands, if not millions of quote outcomes and policy outcomes to your data warehouse every year. And you'll have to adjust your sampling size based on the fact that your database gets bigger and bigger. Not easy to do with some products, but much easier to do with ours. Then we talk about agility. The ability to make changes at a faster rate with quicker build cycles, and therefore be able to react to a market that's getting more and more digital transformation influenced. You can actually price models for specific campaigns, things like adding market share prescriptively, react to competitors' campaigns to gain market share. If one of your competitors suddenly invokes an aggressive campaign, you have the ability to detect that and actually modify your own pricing strategy and models to react. Allows you to experiment with new pricing models and policy riders. Many carriers we talk about a desire to do better lifetime value pricing and customer scoring, and experiment with new policy riders such as pay as you drive or usage-based pricing models. Also allows you to adjust for changes in economic cycles. Now at the moment we're at the top of a economic cycle in the United States. Economic cycles between growth and recession tend to run in 7 or 8 year cycles. So statistically, we're due for a down cycle, a recessionary cycle. So you may want to adjust your pricing models to preserve market share during the down cycle. And in terms of agility, no lengthy IT cycles for change. The model testing, back testing, simulation, and deployment to the pricing engine can actually be managed by the business with IT in a supporting role instead of having to be engaged to make every change required. There's a very good example of this just recently, and I mean a few weeks ago, one of our customers using the Pricing Accelerator actually spotted a pricing/outcome anomaly caused by a previous pricing model design flaw, and they saw this in the Pricing Accelerator's real-time dashboard. Having spotted the anomaly, they went back and back-tested the anomaly against previously accumulated data to confirm that the anomaly existed using the analytics tools. They were then able to modify the pricing model and redeploy the corrected pricing model to the real-time pricing engine in just a little over 4 hours. And we believe in pricing terms that to be an unprecedented turnaround in the industry. The third and last tenet is affordability. You can actually deploy and maintain pricing models, generally reducing costs by up to 65% compared to the other vendors on the market. You can actually reduce the effort of maintaining legacy black box applications. We've heard prices quoted from existing pricing vendors to have changes made at $2,000 a day or more, and those changes can take days and weeks to effect. Model customization and maintenance is a lot easier, and you have the potential to replace multiple black box pricing applications with a single solution. So you might have different pricing applications from different vendors that service different books of business or product lines within your business. You could replace all those with a modular-based approach and a single platform, reduce your overall software costs and maintenance costs. A practical example of this, one of our customers replaced a existing pricing vendor where the annual renewal price is approximately $1.3 million. They were able to replace that with a more powerful and flexible TIBCO one for a little under half that. So that's 100% plus first year ROI just on the vendor replacement cost, and that's even before the other return on investment benefits are achieved in terms of pricing flexibility and the positive benefits to the business. So we've got a good example of the Pricing Accelerator in action. Let's talk about the Automobile Association of Ireland case study. So a little bit about AA Ireland. They were established in Ireland in 1910. They offer breakdown services, referred to in the US generally as roadside assistance, motor and home insurance, and driving services. They have a policy base of about 225,000 insurance customers and about 300,000 breakdown customers. That represents 85% of the roadside assistance market in Ireland, and about 480 employees. Now, they came to TIBCO because their problem was that their existing pricing application was quite expensive and fairly inflexible, and they felt that they were losing business because of that. Their original solution could only be updated by IT, and that resulted in a long cycle time to adjust pricing models according to their business needs. They wanted more visibility into the price versus risk performance. One particular example of that was the policy renewal price versus the risk that the customer will not renew the policy. And the cumulative effect of a lot of these drawbacks is they were experiencing heavy losses on their current book of business. So the use cases they want to implement with the pricing accelerator was price commission optimization. So simultaneously calculate the renewal price, the probability that the customer will accept the price and renewal policy, and simultaneously calculate commission, as most of their business is sold through agents or brokers. They're actually extending these use cases now to add fraud interception and customer value scoring in 2018. So the solution profile, the outcome of this project was they acquired the TIBCO Pricing Accelerator and used that to replace the Radar Live and Emblem products from Willis Towers Watson. They got they had a requirement for a flexible, easily configurable and maintainable rules engine type approach, and then a range of analysis capabilities from simple business intelligence and analytics of the type used by line of business heads, all the way through to complex statistical analysis of the type done by actuaries and data scientists. What they got from TIBCO was the Pricing Accelerator, part of the Insight platform of solutions that gave them real-time policy pricing and fraud detection. The Spotfire analyst is used to tier their customers and determine pricing rules and categorical predictors to renew policies. Spotfire comes with the TIBCO Enterprise Runtime for R, which is a module that allows Spotfire to import statistical models from other statistical tools favored by actuaries, for example, such as SAS, or statistical products that specialize in R. And then our stream-based engine is where the models reside when deployed, allows them to compute price and probability to renew in real time. Positive business outcomes, what came out of this project? AA feels now that they have the agility to seize market opportunities, add real-time fraud detection, and do all of this at 1/3 the cost of the original application. The pricing rules and pricing logic can now be analyzed and updated in a self-service model by the business themselves, the pricing team. The engine on which the quote pricing runs itself is a famously performant engine. Can actually, from receipt of quote data to generation of quote price, can be sub 1 second performance, millisecond performance. The industry average for returning a quote after being supplied the quote data is usually about 5 to 7 seconds. So we can generate a quote in our engine in approximately 1/5 to 1/7 the time it takes traditional quoting mechanisms. They got a first year return on investment of 100% just on the previous vendor cost replacement. And AA Ireland have been able to identify and correct pricing anomalies within just 4 hours, which is unprecedented. Having understood and adopted the underlying TIBCO platform, the Insights platform that started with the Pricing Accelerator, they are now extending the use case to include fraud detection and customer scoring. And here's a quote from the Chief Analytics Officer of AA Ireland. We deployed a differentiated custom pricing application in under 4 months with a small team at a fraction of the cost of our old black box application. There are a couple more positive business outcomes that came out of this. They were able to identify additional use cases that could be solved with the same platform that solved the pricing challenges. Fraud interception is one, customer value scoring is another. Because this is a solution that's oriented towards the use by the business, they can now look at pricing from a commercial perspective, and that gives them better alignment of return on investment. And then because it's a more business-friendly approach, there's better executive alignment between what the pricing accelerator can provide and AA Ireland's strategic vision and business goals. There's a very good video testimonial on this project on the TIBCO website. So you can go to tibco.com/customers/AA-Ireland and watch an interview with the pricing team from AA Ireland talking about how the pricing accelerator pretty much revolutionized their business. Okay, so what goes into the pricing accelerator? Let's take a quick look at the solutions components. So the green box, the orange box, and the red boxes represent the components provided within the pricing accelerator, and the blue database icon represents the various data stores typically found in an insurance carrier. And so you see that there's a sort of an implied loop, and the loop tends to reflect the actuarial control cycle. So the first thing is that the actuaries, the data scientists, will mine that data in their repositories using preferred statistical tools, maybe SAS, maybe R-based statistical tools, do some visualize and analyze, refine and develop some models. Then they can take those models and drop them into the TIBCO Spotfire analyst and analyst server. And then those visualizations can then be provided to people who may not necessarily have an actuarial or a data science skill set. So heads of business, sales, strategy, marketing, underwriters, variety of stakeholders. Then once the optimal model has been decided for the book of business, they can actually take that model and push it in near real time to the TIBCO Streambase engine, which is a host for the quote manager and the model manager, which are the two application modules that determine the management of the model and the behavior of the incoming quotes. And then the last piece is, as the quotes are coming in and being responded to, those are being plotted on the real-time live view web client, and that allows you to model things like not only the incoming, outgoing quotes, but also the probability or propensity of the customer to buy or renew. Okay, so we're going to take a stop there for a second and just take a break from the slides. And we're going to go across to the demonstration system and take a look at some of the components in action. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is the live view web dashboard. And what you're actually seeing here is a real-time simulation of data. And just to explain a little bit about what's going on, the blue line and the blue dots represent outgoing quotes to renew a policy. So these are not new customers, these are customers up for renewal. And a quote is being generated to renew the customer, represented by the blue line. The purple line represents the calculated probability that that customer will accept that quote and therefore renew the policy. Now, what you really want to happen here is if you watch the progression of the quotes, if there's a tight grouping of the purple line and the blue line, it means that the price and the probability of the customer to renew is pretty much optimal. If you see a wide divergence of the blue line with the purple line, so the blue line goes up and the purple line goes down, that means there's a significant differential between the price that was offered and the calculation that the customer will accept that price. And it's probably a leading indicator that the pricing model for that particular quote and set of attributes is probably wide of the mark. Conversely, if the purple line rises significantly higher and the blue line is significantly lower, it could actually mean that you're actually underpricing your product because the calculations are indicating that the customer is sort of more than willing to accept the price, but your price is considerably lower. You may want to go back and review a pricing model and maybe in certain situations increase the price based on that circumstance. Now, this original simulation was designed for UK customers, so the quote traffic is being plotted based on UK counties, but you could easily overlay a map of your preferred countries, such as the United States and, of course, US states. A few other visualizations have been provided in the basic accelerator, the acceptance versus rejection of these quotes going out. So you can see, taken as a basket, approximately just shy of 81% of quotes, renewal quotes are being accepted and about 19% rejected. You can see the split of the quote traffic by gender, male versus female, and the average commission being calculated on the outgoing quotes. This is because, of course, most of the quotes are being generated on behalf of brokers. There's a few other interesting plots here by quotes, quote activity by age range, and here's the actual stream of the quotes themselves going in and out of the organization. A couple more statistics of interest. You can see here that there's a minimum, maximum, and average latency for a quote. You can see currently the average quote latency is about just a fraction over a second, and that's still generally way better than the industry average of 5 to 7 seconds. Now, the implication of this is that because the quoting engine and the pricing accelerator is so highly performant, you might be able to bring in other calculations as part of the quote, such as lifetime value calculation or customer scoring or other calculations you might want to introduce, but you haven't been able to in the past because it would extend the response time between receiving the quote request and providing the quote, and maybe increasing your customer dropout. So the performance of the engine provides you potentially some new options for other scoring mechanisms to be introduced into the model. Okay, so that's the live dashboard. Let's have a look at the analysis client. So out of the box with the accelerator, we provide a bunch of visualizations for you that you can, in theory, use right there and then. All you have to do is map these visualizations to your underlying data stores and actually be able to model and visualize some of your data. The analysis dashboard is split into 3 groups. The first one is really about data exploration, shows various visualizations related to predictors. The second one is a group of visualizations and models that talk about model comparison, model results, and some other functions. And the third part is the ability to deploy those models once finalized to the live engine. So let's have a quick look at some of these visualizations. So the first one is really just sort of standard reporting type stuff. It's reporting on response to quotes based on different types of categories, such as no claims discount years, for example, no claims discount type, named drivers on the account, and a whole bunch of other predictors we provided. Nothing stopping you, of course, adding your own elements to these visualizations. They're extremely flexible and easy to use. Next tab is about data exploration. And what we're looking here is the response to quotes from named drivers. And there's a variety of predictors, categorical predictors and numerical predictors. A good example of a numerical predictor is the gender. So you can see here that when no named drivers are taken into account, female drivers are more likely to renew their policy based on male drivers. You've got no claims discount type. In the UK, there's a couple of different types: full no claims discount and step back. Step back, loosely defined as the ability to sort of lose 1 year of no claims discount if you have an accident or a claim of some sort. Then there is the county. So these counties are arranged based on UK counties, but they could be easily US states, and so on and so forth. You see there's a large number of categorical predictors. We've produced a tremendous amount of options to visualize your data. And then if you look down the chart, you see there are some numerical predictors. So you can look in terms of, and these are presented as candlestick charts. You can see that, for example, the numerical predictor here is that policyholders that have a no claims discount between 5 and 9 years are by far the most likely to renew. And that, of course, makes sense because the carrier knows them, you know them, the customer, they're comfortable with you, and they're willing to stick with you. And you can see that no claims discounts of sort of 0 to 5 years and 9 years or above are less likely to renew. And then you can go down the numerical predictors and look at the total insurance discount. So you can see that that you look at the discount levels. There's a propensity to renew when the discount is in the sort of 0 to 20% range, and less so in the sort of higher ranges. But that could be a reflection of less drivers qualify for the discount. So anyway, feel free to play around with these visualizations and actually change the response and essentially cross-hatch and look at these responses by gender. Another good way of looking at it is relative predictor strength. So these are categorizations of predictors based on certain factors. Now, the first one, the most popular relative predictor, is the propensity of the client to renew based on the number of products they have with you, the carrier. It's probably no secret to anybody who works in the insurance industry that if a customer has a number of products with the same carrier, they're more likely to be sticky and therefore stick with the same carrier. And that seems to be borne out by this statistical sample showing that 2.6%, the number of products the customer holds with the carrier is the strongest predictor of renewal, followed by the premium band that they sit in. In other words, probably an indicator that the premium that they're paying, the band that they're in, low, medium, high, for example, is also a predictor strength. In other words, if you keep your renewal premium stable, it's one of the more popular predictors of renewal. How long they've been a customer, what type of previous insurer they have, and a variety of other factors. And you can change all these predictors and select them using the right-hand predictor pick list, and then the type of response you get in terms of predictor based on the type of category. The next thing to look at is a Kramer 5 correlation analysis. And what this basically does is a crosshatch between the predictors across the X and Y axis, and where there is a color indicator, the density indicates the combination of two factors that represents the customer's likelihood or probability that they will renew. It's very detailed, this, so feel free to, in your own time, to take a look and actually see the density. So you can see that where the red is the most intense, that seems to be the combination of factors that will drive a customer to renew, whereas the darker the blue is an indicator of less liable to renew. So feel free to play with that analysis. Then you get into part 2 of the analysis, is where you can actually create and evaluate a supervised learning model. These are models brought in, statistical models brought in from other tools. So you can see in particular, we're comparing the performance of a number of statistical models here. In this particular example, we've got a logistic regression model, a naive Bayes classifier model, a neural network model, a random forest model, and a lasso regression model. And you can see in terms of efficiency, not a tremendous amount of difference in terms of model performance, but it looks like the random forest and the logistic regression models in terms of efficiency just pip the other models to the post. If you click on the model results, you can actually select one of these models, and the dashboard will recalculate the output based on the model selected. This just takes a few seconds to recalculate. So that's lasso regression. This one is logistic regression. And then there's naive Bayes classifier. And you can go down the models and actually see the statistics and the results produced for the model. So having worked through the exercise of determining the efficiency and efficacy of the model, part 3 allows you to take one of those models that you've tested, and there's a bunch listed here. And I'm not going to do this in real time, but you can click on this button and actually deploy that model that you've determined to be optimal for that book of business, and deploy it right to the real-time quoting engine. And it's that quick that effectively the next quote requests that come in will be evaluated to that model that you just deployed. So that's the analysis dashboard. It's extremely flexible. Your own data scientist, your own analytics specialist could add any number of visualizations and make modifications to ones that are there. But we think we've provided enough to get you going and become very efficient very quickly in how you think about price modeling for your own business. So let's go back to the slides and start to wrap up. Okay, so let's summarize what we've seen today. Okay, so with the Pricing Accelerator, you get faster insight to action. And just to remind you, that means understanding, to go quickly from understanding what's happening in your business to reacting and taking advantage of what's happening in the business. significantly faster quote performance, up to 5 to 7 times faster than the industry average. More flexible architecture, the ability to perhaps host multiple pricing models, replace multiple pricing applications. More business benefits in terms of flexibility, power, modeling. Reduces risk to the business, tremendous return on investment potential, and the underlying platform can solve other problems like claims fraud. Okay, so for more information, we've got a number of resources you take advantage of. You can see a lot of what we just talked about on the TIBCO's Algorithmic Insurance Solutions page. You'll find that at tibco.com/solutions/algorithmic-insurance. You'll actually find the accelerator itself on the TIBCO community page for the insurance pricing accelerator. Actually download the sample models. You'll find that at tibco.com/resources/community/insurance-pricing-accelerator. If you have questions and you need help and you need to reach somebody, you can link to me on LinkedIn. I'm at linkedin.com/in/Mark Elder, all one word. And I'll be happy to direct you to your local technical team around the world. And if you want to contact TIBCO, feel free to go to tibco.com/contact us and fill out the contact form. Be sure and mention that you're evaluating the pricing accelerator and your location so we can direct you to the correct local team to support you. Okay, so I'm going to do a bit of Q&A. I noticed some questions have been coming up in the chat window. The chat window isn't really easy to read. So what I'm going to do is just give me a second. I'm going to paste the questions across onto this slide and then I'll answer them one by one. So let's see. The first question is, can you use other statistical tools? Well, the answer is yes, you can. So our core product supports the statistical modeling language R. So you can develop a statistical model in any tool that supports R programming. That's one option. And then you can take those R models and import them into the Spotfire Analyst, where they can be run natively. You also have the option of using export functions such as PMML from SAS, from statistical products like SAS, but you would import those directly into the quote manager engine, sort of bypassing the Spotfire analysis. So yes, you could use a PMM model from SAS, but you would have to import it directly into the deployment engine, and you wouldn't necessarily get the benefits of the Spotfire visualizations. However, you'd still get the benefits of the real-time dashboard, which is driven off the deployment engine itself. So the short answer to that is yes, with certain caveats. Can you elaborate on the platform support with respect to cloud options? Yes, we can. So you can implement the pricing accelerator on an internal company cloud, a private cloud. You could implement it on a public cloud vendor such as Amazon or Azure. Subject to architecture, there's nothing stopping you implementing the pricing accelerator infrastructure on, for example, an Amazon cloud, and then using secure connectivity to connect the quote input and output channels to your internal quoting engines. And we have an integration team that could help you with that. So this option might be useful because you might get some pushback internally from IT saying, you know, we can't support this product, or we can't get to it for a few months or a year or ever. Well, your answer can be, as a business sponsor, well, we can implement it on Amazon. We just need to wire it into the quote input and output channels. So it's a pretty flexible product. So your choices are really on-premise, off-premise, and that could be any combination of private or public cloud or traditional install on a server. And we support most operating systems. So if you're a Windows shop, Linux shop, Unix shop, then you should be good to go. Can you run more than one pricing model inside the pricing accelerator? Well, the answer is yes. This is one of the advantages of the product. You could have multiple pricing modules running, which could reflect product lines or books of business. So you could have an auto pricing model. You could have a home insurance pricing model. You could have a renter's insurance pricing model, so on and so forth. That same model applies to commercial lines insurance, so commercial liability, directors and officers. You could have a module, a different module for each pricing, for each product running inside the same or multiple instances of the accelerator engine. This is one of the advantages because you wouldn't have to have multiple black boxes running in parallel, all with their own sort of maintenance and cost constraints. And you could have one large pricing engine with different models responding to different quote channels. So yes, you can definitely run more than one pricing model. Okay, just let me paste in the next question. What are you seeing in terms of average turnaround time to deploy a new pricing model? Well, if you'd watched the presentation, you see that the sort of extreme example was 4 hours. So that was basically a little over 4 hours to detect the anomaly, confirm the anomalies, the presence in terms of a back test, identify the aberrant calculation that was producing the anomaly, test a new model, deploy it. That actually happened in 4 hours in the case of one of our customers. That, I believe, is an extreme example. I would say that probably the average is going to be, 2 or 3 business days from testing, developing a model, testing it, back testing or simulating it and deploying it. 2 or 3 days, and that's going to really depend on your own change control mechanisms. But I would say that's probably a reasonable time frame. And of course, that is considerably faster than requesting pricing model changes in a lot of the sort of legacy black box vendors. Can I paste the next question in here? How is the accelerator priced? Well, actually, the accelerator IP itself is free. You can download it off our TIBCO community site, which is in the slideware. You can find the community site link off the solutions page for the insurance pricing accelerator. So the way that it works is we give you the IP in the form of the analysis and the pricing models, and then you acquire the underlying technology, which is basically Spotfire, Streambase, and Live Data Mart. And the reason we do it that way is we don't know what size of insurance company you are. You could be a small regional carrier, or you could be a top 10 behemoth in the US. And the pricing is driven by the capacity requirement. So if you happen to be a behemoth like Liberty Mutual or State Farm or Allstate, you're going to have a large quote volume, a large renewal volume. And if you are sort of more of a regional carrier, operates across 2 or 3 states, you're going to have considerably lower quote traffic potentially. So by making the accelerator free, but the pricing, the underlying software on capacity, everybody gets the right sized configuration they need at the most appropriate price. I hope that answers your question. All right, let me paste in the next question. What skill sets are required to implement and support the pricing accelerator? That's a great question. So from the business perspective, you're talking about a working knowledge of statistics and statistical analysis. Obviously, we're expecting that the folks at your company who would implement pricing accelerator would be involved in pricing functions. So pricing professionals, people with underwriting backgrounds, people with actuarial backgrounds. So I'm assuming they would have the appropriate professional training to understand the sort of pricing business process, as it were. In terms of our product, any working knowledge of statistics or spreadsheet programming will help you. As we indicated in the presentation, the whole idea of the Spotfire analyst part of the equation is to democratize the analysis and make it available to more people who aren't necessarily statisticians or data scientists or actuaries, but still need to look at the data in an intuitive, usable form and make business decisions based on that, such as increase the price, decrease the price, change the pricing behavior. Training on our products is definitely advised, and we can obviously help you with that when you start the implementation process. But that would involve training on the Spotfire Analyst client, which is a BI tool, basically. Training on the Streambase engine, which is where the pricing models are run. A bit more of a technical skill set, that one. But still a drag and drop modeling exercise. And then training on the Live Data Mart, which is more of a configuration exercise than a programming one. So the answer is, some level of sort of BI statistical modeling type training, and then some rudimentary training on the products that support the accelerator. Okay, looks like we have a couple more questions here. Let's paste in this one. Are there any limitations on the modeling support, such as regulatory restrictions or geographic restrictions? I'm interpreting that question as can we accommodate regional restrictions or government restrictions on pricing of products? The answer is yes. I'll give you a couple of examples. In European countries, insurance regulations, including pricing, are generally determined at the national level, the UK, Germany, France, etc. In the US, insurance is generally regulated at the state level, Illinois and New York, Connecticut, etc. And those states, of course, have differences in restrictions on what you can and can't sell. Some don't permit bundling of products. Some don't permit pricing below a certain level or pricing above a certain level. So the answer is yes. You could accommodate all those kind of quirks and differences. And in fact, you could have, for example, a universal model where the pricing logic applies to all states, and then have sub-models based on the individual state that has, accommodates the sort of quirks and nuances of those states. So yes, the answer is yes, we can support modeling, price modeling based on regulatory restrictions or geographic locations of restrictions. Looks like that's the last question. I'll just hang on for a second, see if anybody else has any more questions. Okay, last call for questions. Okay, so I guess we'll call that a wrap. Once again, thanks everybody for your time and attention. And feel free to go to tibco.com/solutions/algorithmic insurer to read more on what you've seen today. Thank you and have a great day.